All right, everybody, we are going to get going with our session number 2 today. We are so delighted to have the City of Des Moines with us talking about their buying process today. So we have Kelly and June, who are from the purchasing department and are going to fill us in on the City of Des Moines and what they're looking at buying. So Kelly and June, you have the floor.
All right, thank you, and welcome everybody to our presentation. Again, this is Kelly, and I have June in here from the City of Des Moines, and we'll just go ahead and jump right in. So we first want to talk about how doing business with the city is different than doing business with a private company. There are some major differences in how we are able to procure items, mostly due to rules and regulations within the government.
We also have, one of the things we kind of wanted to point out was, as city employees, we have to follow some guidelines in regards to accepting gifts. And currently the state basically says we cannot accept anything over $2.99. And which, doesn't really give us a whole lot of options there. So one of the things we suggest is to send, if you've worked with someone and you've had a good experience with them, is to send an email to that person, because that to us means more than actually getting any sort of gift. We can then share that with our supervisors, and so again, like I said, that means more to us than any sort of item that you would even want to drop off. And but if you do drop something off as a gift, it is will be returned, and so we just ask that you don't do that really at all. And just like I said, think of a different way of supporting, city employees.
During our procurement processes, we have a no contact policy. Typically, there will be one buyer that is in charge of a project or a procurement that is currently happening, and they will be the only ones that you should be contacting regarding that specific procurement. Shouldn't be contacting anybody else other than the department, the requesting department, just the buyer that is processing the solicitation.
The City of Des Moines has also started has a local preference policy, and in trying to support local companies, and right now you have to be principal place of business has to be within the city limits, and there are kind of some formulas in regards to doing a bid and an RFP. We aren't going to go into that because that's a little more detailed than what we want to do here. But we do have that local preference when we are looking at working on bids and requests for proposals.
So the City of Des Moines is starting to work more on their sustainability and social equity requirements within an RFP in order to get us more sustainable, to provide more social equity to our vendors and to the agencies that are requesting purchases. So this is something that we are looking at enhancing. We do have some requirements within the bids and RFPs now, and you can see those as you respond, and I'm sure as we go we will look at making those better and more, put a spotlight on those more.
And what does the city buy? That could be an extremely long list. Basically, the easiest way to look at that is, what do we need to purchase in order to run the city? Some examples, products and services commonly used by the city. We've got office equipment, chemicals, hand and power tools, motor and vehicle parts, office supplies, furniture, oils and lubricants, printing and publishing, technology equipment, and it kind of goes on and on and on. So, there's a lot of opportunities out there to, kind of show us, what items or products and services that you may have.
So one big difference in doing business with a government versus a private business is we actually have public solicitation openings. So any request for bid or request for proposal is currently publicly opened. We do those right now with COVID. We typically do those via Zoom, and anybody that has responded will receive the Zoom link and they are able to view those solicitation openings. However, if we are just asking for a quote, just a dollar amount for a project, we do not have public openings for that, and those can just be emailed directly to the purchasing agent. Of course, that.
Okay. So usually on the first page of the document, we'll give you the instructions. Is there, how to get your response to us. So kind of, look at that and make it as simple as you can for yourself. Kelly mentioned emailing, your information to us. That can, much easier than, trying to get it here. And so just kind of, look at that first page usually in regards to how to get your response to us.
So the last bullet point on this one is clarifications and questions. So as we are going through the bid process, before the bid or request for proposal closes, there will always be a time for potential respondents to ask questions. If there is anything in the bid document, ask during that time. And again, that would be on the first page of the solicitation document, would tell you how to ask those questions and by what date and time those questions are needed. But always ask if there's anything. We welcome those questions and clarifications in order to help respondents know exactly what they are responding to, and just give you more information if it is needed.
The city of Des Moines does have some procurement roles, and we've kind of listed the three roles within the city of Des Moines. We have our city council, and they determine our budget levels. They set goals for us, priorities, and also performance standards for city staff. The city manager right now manages the annual operating budget in order for the goals and priorities of the city council to be accomplished. And then we have the departments, and then they are responsible for meeting these goals and objectives established by the city council and the city manager. We do have purchasing, kind of has a big goal here. Our biggest thing is we are watching out for taxpayer dollars. In my professional life, and I'm going to assume Kelly's, is, that is really important, that we are making sure that the city is getting a quality product or service, we have had fair and open competition, but again, we are protecting the city, looking at terms and conditions, and making sure that, we are protected.
So this slide, we kind of had questions that we had for anybody that is currently listening in, and you can always either respond now, or we have our emails at the end of this presentation that you can provide us and provide any feedback that is on this slide. The questions we have for potential responders out there is, have you submitted a bid, quote, or solicitation? And if you have not, what has prevented you from submitting? What has been the biggest barrier you faced in doing business with the city? And what top 3 things could the city do to make you more likely to bid on future contract opportunities? And what can the city do to increase awareness of solicitations within the city of Des Moines? So we would love feedback. If anybody listening has feedback now or would like to provide feedback to us later today, whatever you watch this, that would be great.
I can just jump in just from who I counsel and the questions that I've heard come up prior to today. I think the biggest thing is, where do they find the jobs and knowing what the city is buying?
So we currently will post those on our website, and we have a slide here a little bit later that kind of gives the website link and where to look for that. And then also they can always email us their information, like, hey, we provide this product, this is how you can contact us, and we will keep that information. And if we have a solicitation that matches up well with a vendor's offerings, we will send that solicitation directly to them.
And we'll go into more detail on a couple of slides yet. So.
Yep.
So right now, the city of Des Moines, these are our current procurement limits. So if it's less than 3,500, there is no set procedure. As long as the pricing they receive is reasonable, our internal clients can go and purchase the item or service. If it's above between 3,500 and 25,000, we have a procurement procedure. We need to, depending on what we're kind of trying to accomplish, we would either do a request for quote, a request for bid, or a request for proposal. The next section would be 25,000 to 50,000, and that is a formal competitive process. And that does require us to do a request for bid or a request for proposal. And we'll go into these, I think we
go into
to a
solicitation types in a few
a
slides.
little bit here. If it does exceeds 50,000, we would follow the formal competitive process by doing a request for bid or request for proposal. But at that point, we do need to go to city council to get their approval. And these are our current limits.
All right. As we mentioned in the previous slide, we will go through the procurement types to help you better understand kind of what we're talking about and what you need to do for each kind of solicitation. So the most informal is going to be the request for quote process. This is an informal procedure, and we need to get a minimum of 3 written quotes for equivalent products or services. And that has to be the best combination of quality and cost. This is something that's usually just very informal, reaching out to vendors, getting those quotes, and they can email those quotes right back to us. You don't need to come in person or anything else. It's just very informal. The next one is a request for bid. This is more of a formal procedure and is awarded to the lowest responsible bidder. These are sealed bids for equivalent products or services, and there is a public bid opening. And finally, you have your request for proposals. This is, again, another formal procedure, and it contains all the information that is requested in that request for bid in regards to the product or service that has additional criteria for evaluating the vendor's proposal. The contract would not be based solely on price. With the request for proposal, you will have an evaluation team look over each of the proposals and provide an evaluation score for each proposal, and that is how it is awarded versus the request for bid, which is typically lowest price, as long as you're responsive and a responsible bidder.
And this is the slide where we have listed at the very top is our purchasing website. We'll take you directly there, and this is where we would list our current procurements. So that is the www.dsm.city/procurement. We will, all of our notifications for requests for bids and requests for proposals must be posted here. So that is how we are able to get it, use it as our public notice. And so that is the current process. We have a goal. We talked earlier about City Council setting goals, and one of them is this online bidding to reduce. It will reduce staff time and reach more vendors. If we have your contact information, our goal once we have this in place, and this is going to be a few months yet, we would reach out to you and have you sign up to receive the login to be able to get emails regarding current procurements. So you're going to see the City of Des Moines transitioning into hopefully a much better e-procurement system. We would receive everything through that software, and it would actually, the goal would be to save time also on the vendor side, as they would have the documents right there. Then they would be able to submit their response at any point, as long as it meets the deadline of when the bids or RFPs are due. The website does provide the date when the proposals are due. So make sure you're checking that website to make sure that you're the due date and the time for when the procurements are due, that you have that information. But like I said, keep an eye out on getting a different way of us, much better way of us contacting all the vendors.
All right, we have come to the end of our presentation, and we wanted to make sure we left time for any questions that anyone may have right now. Again, like we said earlier, this is our contact information up on the screen. So if you have questions later, feel free to reach out to either of us, and we would definitely be able to answer your questions or find an answer to your question.
Thank you so much. I'm going to throw a couple questions out that I know that people will have. With this being government, your fiscal year, can you tell us a little bit about when your fiscal year runs?
July 1st through June 30th.
Okay. And is there usually a use it or lose it policy where you need to spend the money at the end and then have budgets set for the beginning?
The budget is, so right now, we are working on our budget that would begin July 1st of 2022. And if I believe it has to be set, everything has to be approved, city council by, I think it's sometime in February or March. I don't want to say we have use it or lose it, because we are protecting the taxpayer dollars. So we should be using the money towards what we said we were going to purchase.
Perfect. The $3,500 and under, that will hit a handful of people in this group that are kind of dipping their toe. Since that is not really, there's no procedure for that, is the best way, I know you mentioned shoot you an email so that they're in the system. How many buyers are there? Would the buyers first go to that system to see if there's somebody in their system that would meet that under $3,500 requirement? Or do most buyers just get to kind of make a decision on their own of who they want to work with?
So for that dollar value currently, the buyers, there are 4 buyers and then our procurement administrator. We do not actually, our internal clients do not have to involve us in those purchases. Having said that, we do, if we get an email from someone and we feel that it's important to share that communication with our internal clients, we will forward that on to them. And it's up to them to decide what they want to do with that $3,500 or less. Procurement is trying to become more involved in purchases. I don't know if we'll be involved though with things under $3,500, other than getting the communication and probably forwarding it on to our internal clients. I would say the best thing is to communicate with us and make us aware that you exist.
Okay. That's kind of what we're trying to work on today. With the $3,500 amount, we had heard DMACC went right before you. And so like DMACC has P cards, they're purchasing cards. Does the city of Des Moines have purchasing cards, or is everything handled through invoice?
So right now, we are in a pilot for P cards.
Okay.
So there are not that many employees that have P cards, but our goal is to, obviously get P cards in the hands of more people.
Awesome.
And then does P cards help or not help with this group, I guess would be my question back.
Well, I guess my other question would be, what's the turnaround time for invoices? Because that's usually the biggest thing. Can they wait, 30, 60, 90 days, or is the P card, they have money in hand, but they, lose a percentage to the credit card fees. So
right.
What is your normal turnaround time for invoices? I'm sure it depends on projects too.
That's a hard answer because basically once we accept the project, we would, and as long as we have accept an invoice that has all the information that we have on it, we would process that. And
I don't know how often they send checks, but typically payment terms on our POs are net 30. So we will try to, I mean, that's within 30 days, you would be receiving that payment.
That's
After
great.
we-
Great.
After.
That's great for them.
project.
You mentioned the online bidding process, and you mentioned that the bid usually accepts the lowest bid that comes in. With the online process, is that going to be the same, where it always takes the lowest?
So it will, when we do the bid opening, it will show the lowest. It's kind of it's not that's who's gonna get the contract, but the online portal will show who is low bid. So it's a tentative, it's not an official award, it's a tentative award.
Okay. And then I know the city of Des Moines is really focused on trying to use minority businesses. Is there any goals specifically set for that, or certain certifications that the city would like small businesses to have?
Currently, we do not have those. However, I know that that is something that the city is looking at going forward. So I am sure we will have goals at some time, and we will definitely share those with our constituents as soon as we have those.
Perfect. All right. I don't see any other questions in there. I will drop your emails down in the chat just so they stay there through the rest of the session this morning. But thank you so much, Kelly and June, for being here. A wealth of knowledge. And it was great after just hearing DMACC go kind of from a more private side into the city and the differences, and really appreciate you being here and sharing your knowledge.